It's just if you really want to make something happen, start talking to people. I had no concept at all of how that works. Not good, like bad, like bad. Um, when I
Hi, everyone. This is Jack Allwell with another Money episode. Today, we have very special guest Matt Ward. He's the owner of Breakthrough Champion. He's a word of mouth referral and networking consultant. Matt, welcome to the show.
well, thanks for having me, Jack. I greatly appreciate being here.
So, before we get into the world of referrals, what was your relationship like with money growing up?
Oh, not good, not good, like bad, like bad. Um, when I was just out of high school, so I had not learned a lot about spending and saving, and I didn't even understand how checking accounts worked. Um, I'll never forget writing a check, and then I took some money out of the ATM machine like the next day or so, and then the check bounced, and I went to my mom and I was like, I don't understand. And she's like, well, you wrote a check, right? And I was like, yeah, but you know, the ATM says that I have the money in there. She's like, but it takes 3 days for the check to clear. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I had no concept at all of how that works. Now, it took me years to figure out money and finances and to be fiscally responsible. That's a term I use in the last 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, and going from somebody who was very, very poor, my mom personally, I believe the number is five, has filed bankruptcy 5 times. Like
Wow.
it's just crazy, right? And the concepts of spending money is like just spending money because it's there, those type of things. So to go from that upbringing to the point where I'm 50 years old and I paid cash for my house last year, that's a dramatic change of events. And I think it's a real mind shift on how you live. Even now, every day, I think about the money I spend. Can I, um, is this in my budget, so to speak? Even though I may not have an actual budget, but I'm constantly thinking about it. I learned a great,
Along the last decade, would you say there have been any like inflection points since you really
yeah.
started turning
There,
it
there was a
around?
big change. So I did some of the Dave Ramsey stuff, and just
Okay.
conceptually, I don't agree with everything certainly that Dave Ramsey does or talks about, but what the Dave Ramsey stuff taught me was really about paying a lot more attention to a lot of things and seeing the results of the work that you actually do. The concept that he has to pay off your smallest debt first, not your highest interest rate, is a concept I actually believe in because the whole point of that is that it builds a habit and you get rewarded for it in the sense that you see it pay off.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's interesting because credit scores are a big thing, right? They're something we monitor all the time. And for years, my credit score had fluctuated low and high, whatever. But I never hit that 800. And in the past 18 months, I've hit it and maintained it. And it's like a thing. It's like, and I don't know why I'm happy about it. I don't really need credit per se. I mean, I guess you do to some extent. But the inflection point really was that and this concept in business. I read a book called Profit First by Mike
Ah.
Michalowicz that
Mhm.
really changed my business life many, many years ago. um, Lucky enough to have communicated multiple times with Mike Michalowicz. He endorsed my second book, and there was something he said in Profit First that was really a game changer for me, just in how you think about things on a daily basis. And that is, if you think you need something, go to Amazon, find the item, put it in your cart, and don't buy it. And then you wait until tomorrow. And you look at that thing and say, do I need that? And if you don't need that right now, you leave it there until the next day. And the next day you do the same practice. Do I need that? Do I need that? If that item stays in your cart 30 days, you don't need it. You don't need it. And you're spending money on wasteless things. So I do a lot of that. And just really what between Mike and Dave Ramsey, the inflection point was, I think for me, probably 2016 when I implemented Profit First. And just I took those two guys as concepts and kind of molded them together into create my own thing, which was a merger of the two. And it just became about awareness for me. And now I'm still bad with money in a lot of ways, but I know that I'm bad with it and I can focus on it and do certain things, you know.
Now, when you say you actually implemented the Profit First, that's where you have the different bank accounts and
Yeah.
your, okay. So you've set that all up.
Yeah, I have, I think right now I have 18 bank accounts.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I use Profit First in my own personal life as well. So for instance, I live in an HOA. And
Mhm.
so I have an annual HOA fee, but actually I have two fees. I have an amenities fee and a common fee. And combined, they're like, I don't know what they are. They're like uh, 5 grand a year or something. So I just transfer money every Friday or Saturday into the HOA account so that in 1 year I will have the full amount of that. I have a recreation a hobby that I love to do, which is side by side ATVs. I've been doing it for years. It's a very expensive hobby. It's like owning a boat, right? The machine costs a lot of money, the repairs cost a lot of money, the accessories cost a lot of money, and then the trips. And I just went on a 2 week trip around the country where I took 2 weeks and drove to Utah from Florida and then Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Alabama. But I spent money that I had in my ATV account. So every week I transfer a certain dollar amount to this ATV account. And that's money I can use to repair the ATV, accessorize the ATV, put gas in the ATV, and I use it for hotels. I use it for gas for my truck to go on this trip. I use it for permits to ride in certain state parks. That's my ATV money. Um, and so that's how I compartmentalize things. And when I did that and I automated my bills, that changed everything. So I took all my utility bills and everything and I put them on auto charge. Because my worst problem was I was a business owner and it's not that I didn't have the money, I just didn't make the time to pay the bill. And so
Mm,
I would get behind on certain stuff. Everything gets paid on automatic payment. And then everything, I get alerts, I get emails and text messages when my cards are charged. And then I transfer those money to what I call a credit card clearing account. And then a couple times a month, I swipe money from the credit card clearing account to pay off the credit cards. And then
I
I
see.
travel for free because I get credit card points, right?
Okay.
So I went to South Africa last year in business class lie flat seats, round trip for two people, which was 400,000 American Express points. And I paid for all that with American Express because I had charged stuff ongoing. And I just saved the points for it because they don't expire.
Wow. So like in this credit card clearing account, it's like semi-automated.
No,
Like,
so that's not automated at all. So basically
gotcha.
what
Okay.
happens is I take the credit card clearing account and that's the account I put in for the payment information on the credit cards. And then what happens is Um, say today, I don't know, let's just say I refill a Starbucks card with $100, right? And I
Mhm.
put that on my American Express. It will notify me. I put it on my American Express. It'll remind me and send me an email. And then sometime this week, I'll go in and transfer $100 from my account to my credit card clearing account. And that will grow. Let's just say that gets, I don't know, $3,000 in it. And then like sometime next week, I'll just make a payment to my Amex of $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever. I always make a payment before it's due, so I see the due amount, I see the statement amount, um, but I just always pay. I just keep ahead of it, so to speak, and then ultimately that will give me a small cushion. I always round up too, so I'm the guy that when there's a charge for $13.80, I transfer $14.
Okay.
When I have a car payment that's 685, I transfer 700, right? So I'm always that guy. And so there's a smaller cushion in there that allows me to build up for something.
Okay. I mean,
There's
one
a
of
really
the,
good
uh-huh.
tactic too with car payments. I don't know if you know about this, but so a lot of people talk about making an extra car payment, kind of like making an extra mortgage payment. I don't do that. What I
Okay.
do is I transfer my payment every week to my bank account. Now, what that does, so I'll give you an example. Say my car payment's $1,000. There's 4 weeks in a month. I'm going to transfer $250 a week. Um, but it's applied to your current payment. It's not applied to principal, right? Because you're not making a principal only payment. So what happens is when you have 5 weeks in a month, you're making an extra $250. What they do is they apply that to your next payment, not your principal. So eventually it moves your payment out. So if you get into a tough time, like one time, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was like December and money was tight. It was Christmas. There was Christmas gifts flowing. Money was going out. I didn't make my car payment that month. Why? Because my next car payment was due in like May because I had already paid ahead because I was doing that tactic. So it gave me a full couple months to not have to make a car payment, which was super nice. And I would rather do that than pay the extra on the principal because it gives me flexibility. If you pay the extra on the principal, yeah, you save a little bit of money, but how much on a car payment? It's not like a lot of money you're saving. So to me, the flexibility is more important than the actual interest I pay.
Okay, fascinating. I mean, I think another thing when I read Profit First, it was kind of tricky to set up all the accounts. So what bank did you use and how long did that actually take you to get from,
Okay, so this
one
is
account to
interesting.
18 accounts?
Yeah. So first of all, two things about that. I use a credit union in Massachusetts called Digital Federal Credit Union. You can create a new account, a new savings account, or a new checking account online if you're already a member there. There's no issues with that, right? This is a personal account, not a business thing.
Mhm.
So from a personal perspective, you can easily create accounts. I can create one in 5 minutes. And all I have to do is fund it with $5 from one of my other accounts. And then the beauty of that is you can make transfers between all those accounts, which is super nice. Yes, you're 100% right that banks have notoriously had a problem with having all these checking accounts for whatever reason. Obviously, Profit First believes that you should go to banks that don't charge fees. They now have a partnership with a bank called Relay Bank that allows you to do exactly this. But more so, and I used Relay Bank for another business I had last year that I had for 10 months and I built it and sold it. And Relay actually does the percentage transferring thing that they talk about in Profit First. So in Profit First, one of the things they talk about is having an income account and then having an operating account, a tax account, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't pay any money out of your income account. You only have income come in. So what I did for the business that I had last year was I had all my income come in and then I had a threshold of $500. I just left $500 in there. Every Saturday, it would transfer all the remaining amounts over to the other accounts and I would pick percentages. So early on, it was like 25% to taxes and 20% to this or that, whatever. You just pick it and then you adjust it. And the nice thing about that is it's a full sweep, right? Relay was set up specifically to cater to the profit first community in business. They're a Canadian bank affiliated with Thread Bank. It was a great product. Everything was, you still can deposit checks online. You could take credit cards and all those things. So it worked out really well. And I would still be with them if I still had the business, but I sold the business. So Relay Bank is a really good option for people who want to do this auto transfer thing. So for instance, my bank won't allow that. They won't allow me to transfer all the money out except $500. They need to know the actual dollar amount. So what I do is I just set up recurring transaction, 150 here, 200 here, 250 here, 500 here. I set up the actual dollar amounts to transfer out. But the Relay Bank lets you do it the other way, which is the way Profit First talks about it.
Well, Matt, we're both on this men's group that Mike Solicho put together. He's the host of your 1230 podcast, so shout out to him. But you were talking a month or two ago about referrals, and I was just thinking while you were talking, like I could listen to this guy forever talk about these referrals and this organic kind of marketing. So why don't you tell us how you even got into this world and what made
Right.
you so passionate about it?
So for 16 years, I ran a web design and development company in the greater Boston, Mass area. And I built that business through networking. I eventually sold that business to a guy I met in a networking group for over $1 million. And really, what I learned throughout that entire process, that 16 years, was that in small business, micro businesses, businesses less than 10, 20 people, sales are really made through the word of mouth methodology. And when I go into a room as a speaker and there's 100 people in the room and I say, hey, raise your hand if the number one source of new business for you is word of mouth referrals. Literally all 100 people will raise their hand. And then I would say, now keep your hand up if you have a predictable process to generate more referrals. And maybe one or two people would leave their hand. You
Okay.
see, most people don't have a system, a process, a way of being in their business that brings in more predictable word of mouth referrals. Um, Most people believe that referrals come from customers, and that's actually not true at all.
Hmm.
They believe that because they got one really, really good referral from a customer. But customers, they don't want to share us. They're greedy. They want us to answer their calls when
Uh-huh.
they have a need, right? So the more they share us with the other people, the less likely we are to be available for them. So what I teach people is to flip the script. Stop talking to the customers about referrals. Provide great service. Do it in a great way, and they will talk about you. But they're not in a position to refer you, right? When's the last time I was sitting on my back lanai talking about my realtor or my mortgage professional with my neighbor? Like, it just doesn't happen. Instead, focus on the sources of the referrals, the centers of influence, the people who are in a position to refer all the time, and teach them how to refer you. You teach them how to ask questions to their customers and prospects that produce referrals.
Okay.
And we can go through lots
Sure.
of different scenarios for
Like
that,
like
but
like
that's how
let's
I got
let
into it.
yeah, yeah. Let okay. So like for example, like I buy and sell vacant land in Arizona. Who should I
Okay, so
be
this is a
talking
good
to?
example, right? So the first question I would say to you is, okay, you buy and sell vacant land in Arizona. Give me an example of someone that referred you a potential customer, whether you did business with them or not, that is not a customer of yours.
Well, I've only been doing this a couple of years.
Could it
It's
be realtors?
not the
Because they
thing
kind of
is,
keep the deal for themselves, right?
yeah, well, like the land that I'm buying, like the realtors, the dollar amounts are so low that they're not really interested. So I don't really
Right.
interact with, yeah, agents at
So
all.
so if they get a phone call, hey, I want to sell some land, they don't make any money doing all that paperwork.
Ah, okay.
So they could just refer that to you, right?
They could, yeah.
So the question becomes, are they getting the phone calls? Like
Okay.
that's the struggle. Another thing might be you know, like probate, real estate
Mhm.
attorneys, people that deal with vacant land that's like all of a sudden somebody else's problem,
Mhm.
right? How do they get rid of that? Who do they know to help get rid of that? Um, Estate planning attorneys, as an example, when somebody's doing a will, one of the questions you can teach the estate planning attorney to ask is, do you currently have any undeveloped land?
Okay. Yeah.
And so what that does is that produces, it does what I call bird dog. It bird dogs the referral. So then how do you get more of that? Is you go to your networking events and your chamber events and the people you deal with. And when they say, hey, how can I help you, Jack? Who would be a great referral? You don't respond with anybody who has vacant land that wants to sell. You say, well, I work with a lot of estate planning attorneys because they often have clients that I work with, and I have clients that need their help. and they get approached all the time about vacant land. So I just look to build my connections with estate planning attorneys,
Okay.
and they might know one or two. You know, the other way you get to estate planning attorneys is you go through financial advisors because they're always looking for estate planning attorneys as well, right? So
Okay.
that's just one example of one center of influence. And then it's a matter of trying to figure out what other categories of professions have an opportunity to refer you.
Mhm. Do you have any like structure or procedures to kind of like help us think
So the
about?
biggest thing I teach people is onboarding. When you onboard a client, you want to ask them a series of questions. And those series of questions are about their professional relationships with providers. Let's say you're going to sell my vacant land, right? Yeah, I've got vacant land, you're going to sell it for me, right? You buy and sell vacant land.
Yeah.
So you're going to buy it from me and you're going to sell it to somebody else. Well, when you're getting the details of that property, you're already talking about things like contact information and potentially money and those types of things. Just throw in a random question. Say, okay, as I get your contact information, okay, what's the address of the property? What's the plot plan? What's the square footage? What's the acreage? Okay, what's your contact number? What's your email? Okay, and do you have an attorney on that you work with? What's their information? Now you
Okay.
just got their attorney's information. Now you don't
That's
need their
fair.
attorney for the transaction probably,
Okay. Yeah.
but you can have their attorney now for networking. Hey,
Okay.
we have a mutual client. It seems like we might have some commonalities here. Do you want to get a cup of coffee? If that's local. If it's not local, hey,
Uh-huh.
can we jump on a Zoom and just learn more about, And so what you're doing now is you're building a Rolodex, a contact database of all these attorneys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's other categories you might ask for, like there's like surveyors, land surveyors. There might be, I mean, I would think, and I'm not tight into that market, but I would think realtors in general would be a potential source of leads. Although I have had in my experience, a lot of realtors want to keep a lot of things for themselves, or they want some sort of commission on the referral.
Okay.
Um, if the dollars are low in the industry and not worth it for all the paperwork they have to do, then maybe you just have to talk to 20 realtors to find one that's willing to work with you,
Mhm.
right? And if you were a coaching client of mine, one of the things I would actually tell you then is now you got one out of 20, go find another 20 so you can get one more,
Uh-huh.
right? Because ultimately you need 15 of them, which means you need to talk to 20 times 15, which is 300 people. And then
Yep.
you'll have 15 good referral sources that you're going to stay in touch with consistently over a period of time.
Okay. And then
That's about.
yeah, and then how do we like show like I guess we can just refer them
Yeah,
people
so
too
that's
if
another thing, right? So like when you send outbound referrals out, there's a lot of ways to do that. And one of the ways is when you ask that lawyer question. So say you're working, you have 3 lawyers in your contact database right now, and you're trying to get a fourth. And so you ask, hey, okay, this is all great. Your phone number, your email. Okay, great. And who's your attorney? And they say, I don't have one. Oh,
Mm.
okay. All right. Well, let me come back to that in a minute. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And regarding your attorney, did you want a connection to a good one? Like I've got a couple I can refer you to. Boom. There's an outbound referral. Now, you want to be careful in your situation because if you're referring an attorney while you're in the middle of a deal, it might
Yeah.
blow up your deal, right?
Uh-huh.
So what you might want to do is just say, you might want to massage the wording so that you're saying things like, um, do you have an estate planning attorney that deals with all your estate assets? I want to make sure that we're putting this, we're writing this in the name of the trust properly. Or that's a good example. The minute you pick up on the fact that the land is in the name of a trust,
Hmm.
someone created that trust.
Yep.
So now you're going to be like, oh, who's the attorney that created the trust? And they might say, oh, well, why? Say, well, I have clients all the time that need people to create trusts. Right. And then when you get another piece of land that comes in and you're talking to them and it's in a personal name, you'd be like, okay, yeah, yeah. By the way, Did you know you can put land in a trust? Like all your other stuff and your property can be in a trust. Did you know that you could save on taxes that way and stuff? No. Well, did you want to talk to Jane Doe? She's a trust attorney. Could probably get y'all squared away, but there's an outbound referral right there. And so this is just about natural conversation. Early on, it's going to feel really awkward. But once you start working through it, you're going to find that there's a lot of opportunity in talking to prospects about outbound referrals and connections and relationships and who's in their wheelhouse and who's in your wheelhouse and how you can help them with things that are more than just this land transaction that you have going on. If you build a sense of a relationship in the conversation, which is a lot of times what sales is, you're going to learn a lot of stuff about these people. You know, one of the questions I imagine you asked is, why are you getting rid of the land?
Yeah.
Well, there's always a reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
So is the reason like so and so family member's about to pass away, they have cancer, I want to deal with this now, or we're trying to raise money because we want to start a business. Okay, well, I have a business attorney I can connect you with, right? What are other ways to generate money? Refinancing a home, taking cash out. You know, there's a lot. Life insurance, whole life insurance policies generate money. So having people in your network that can help other people strategize on how to generate money, those are connections you make when your deal's done, right? Because you don't want to
Mhm.
blow up your deal at the same time, but these are information, like, this is why it's important to, once the deal's done with this person, now you're having a conversation. Plus, if you're selling land, if you have a piece of property that you're now selling, you want to be talking to the people about, hey, is this going into a trust? Oh, I don't know about trust. Oh, well, let's get this person involved, get you into a trust because it's going to save you money long term. You know, those are all easily set up outbound referrals, and they're very qualified at that point. You know, because you're
Mhm.
going to have bird dog that referral, and now the person is like more likely to buy, right?
Mhm. Well, Matt, as we're winding down, I do like to ask everyone, what's the best and worst personal finance advice you've either heard or received?
I think some of the worst personal finance advice that I've ever heard is to never borrow money, to always pay cash.
Okay.
I don't believe that. I believe that there's good debt and bad debt. I myself have done very, very well because I've done rental properties as well, and I have borrowed money for those, and they pay for themselves, and then I make a bunch of equity, and then I sell them. And so I think leveraging is actually a really good thing. It's just, if you really want to make something happen, start talking to people.
Mm.
My first ever rental property was given to me, like literally just given to me.
Mm.
I had to take over a payment. I had to make another private payment every month, no money down, nothing. Just assumed the property, and 18 months later I sold it for a $60,000 gain.
Wow.
You That came about because I was talking to people, telling them I wanted to get into property management and real estate. Um, and so it's all about networking and connections long term. You just have to talk about it, you have to consume it, you have to educate yourself. Um, there's more than enough money out there to make people rich if that's what you really want. I never wanted to be rich. I just wanted freedom. And I got freedom by having enough money to pay off other things. And I got the money by getting other people to pay me the money, i.e., renters, right? You know, renters paid for my mortgages. And so I think that you have to be careful with people that literally say only pay cash, don't go into debt. Some of that Dave Ramsey stuff is just not good advice. Um, you have to pick the nuggets of everybody you talk to find what's good and bad. Throw out the this. One friend told me one time, have you ever heard the saying, eat the fish and spit out the bones?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to take the good stuff and just ignore the bad stuff, the stuff you don't agree with, and then build your own philosophy from that. That's what I did.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I've really enjoyed listening to you and chatting with you. Why don't you tell the listeners where they can go get your books and where they can get in touch with you?
Sure, absolutely. My books are on Amazon. I've got my first book came out in 2018. It's More Word of Mouth Referrals, Lifelong Customers and Raving Fans on Amazon. And my second book came out in 2021 called The High Five Effect: How to Do Business with People Who Bring You Joy. That one was endorsed by Mike Michalowicz. That's also on Amazon. People can find me at mattwardspeaks.com. That's the easy way to get to me. My company's Breakthrough Champion. That's breakthrough-champion.com. But everything leads to Matt Ward Speaks on all platforms. And yeah, I'm just happy to have conversations with people. I do one-on-one coaching, but I'm incredibly picky about who I take on as customers because freedom in my life is the most important thing. I would rather not work than try to make money.
There you go.
So that's it. As I always like to say, Jack, thanks for having me on, and don't forget to live happy, smile a
Definitely.
lot, and high five
High five.
everyone around you.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll be sure to link to all those things you just mentioned.